Welcome to CosmoFactory, a podcast by Cosmoprof Worldwide Bologna, where we explore the entire cosmetics, personal care, and fragrance industry supply chain. I'm your host, Deanna Utrusky, and here at CosmoFactory, we look beyond the trends to discover the ideas, initiatives, and innovations that are truly advancing beauty. Let's get started. This episode is about the reduction of production. It's about slow but steady progress in a fast-paced industry. It's about multifunctional skincare and about finding retail channels that are a good match for both a brand and for its customers. My guest on today's episode of the CosmoFactory podcast is Pauline Prescott, CEO and founder of Formulae Prescott Skincare. Pauline, welcome to CosmoFactory.
Thank you, Diana. I'm really, really pleased to be here.
No, you're welcome. It's very kind of you to make time to speak with me. Industry observers and trend analysts are talking about something now called slow beauty or slow fragrance. It's a movement that's being led by niche brands focused on small batch craftsmanship, oftentimes natural ingredients, and few, if any, product launches each year. And I want to be clear that these are not the new brands that have a small assortment only because they haven't yet scaled their business. They're also not products that are made by DIY or at-home formulators. These brands really connect with consumers who appreciate rarity as an attribute of luxury and who are intentionally buying less. Now, I don't know if you align yourself with this movement, but Pauline, I have heard you use the phrase sustainability of formulation, which I understood to be sort of a more, I should say, a less is more approach. So I'm hoping you'll tell us about your perspective on multifunctional product formulas.
Yeah, well, actually, I would completely align myself with your understanding of slow beauty, because that is exactly what we are. We are specialist, perfectly balanced formulations made in small batches. We are 95% food-based ingredients. And I would add slow beauty, but also smart beauty, because our formulations, I call them smart formulations. They are multifunctional formulations intended to give the maximum amount of nourishment, comfort, and to your skin, while also being kind to the environment and fitting into, honestly, just a busy person's lifestyle. So we normally take about 18 months to develop a formulation.
Can you just give us an example? Help us think about and why that is, in fact, an aspect of sustainability.
Well, when we create, and I'll talk about our, if you like, our cornerstone product is Tri-Balm. So Tri-Balm is an oil-based cleanser, but the oils that we use to cleanse your skin are incredibly nutrient dense. So we're using wheat germ oil, 21 skin enhancing benefits. We're using blackcurrant oil. Blackcurrants have 500 times more antioxidants in them than a blueberry, and a blueberry is a superfood. We're using pomegranate oil. We're using enzyme exfoliators that are very gentle on the skin, so that even people with psoriasis or eczema sensitivities, and there are increasingly consumers with these issues now, can use our products. And then we're using natural hydrators on it as well. So our mission is really to make the most nutrient-dense skincare a consumer can find that is natural, while still being kind to the environment, because we're actually taking steps out of the skincare process. So you don't need an exfoliator if you're using Tri-Balm, because it has a natural exfoliator in it. And it's a pumpkin exfoliator, so it comes from a food extract. You don't need a retinol cream, because our product has carrot tissue oil in it, which is loaded with vitamin A, which is a natural retinol. It's nature's natural retinol. You don't need an eye makeup remover, because these products are so gentle that the oils in this product will actually remove even waterproof mascara. So whilst we're creating really carefully curated formulations for consumers, we have a very, very keen eye on how does this impact the environment? Because we find now that consumers are increasingly aligning themselves with brands that have the same social values as they do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And tell me if I'm putting words in your mouth here, but that sort of, you don't need an exfoliator, you don't need a retinol, means you don't need the packaging that goes along with it. You don't need the production of an additional product. You don't need, extra sourcing.
No, you don't need the cartons. You don't. and most of our products don't have water in them.
Hmm. Hmm.
Some of them touch water because some ingredients are water soluble. And once an ingredient is touched water, I can't say it's a waterless environment, but for example, our spritz is a coconut water base, but it has touched water because it has algae in it. So but we also, if you're really going to say we're environmentally conscious, water is one of the most precious resources on the planet.
Mhm. No, that's super helpful. Thank you for all of that. Many of the slow beauty brands that I alluded to in my opening remarks, and I'm glad you see a bit of a parallel there with what you're doing. Many of these brands do have artisanal production facilities, facilities that they own, as I believe you've done with Formulae Prescott, something a little bit more conventional insofar as you've partnered with a manufacturing facility. But maybe we could call it a community-based approach to production. I'd love to hear you explain sort of the ethics that have guided your choice of manufacturing partner over the years.
Well, I'm glad you raised that because most people don't think about when they're talking about sustainability, they don't think about the manufacturing process. We are working with an extremely talented cosmetic scientist, and she is a family-run business. And what specifically I love about working with this lady, besides the fact that she's enormously talented, is that she has her factory in a small town in the UK.
Mhm.
I go to work with her. I'll go and I'll see somebody on the floor packing products. I'll see someone running a fill line. I'll see somebody in the accounts department. When I go and stay in the local bed and breakfast, because I'm there for a few days, I will see them, I'll see parts of her staff working in the cafe. I'll see them working behind the bar. I'll see a whole community of people working there. She's got 2 generations working in her facilities. And that sort of speaks to me about keeping, if you like, a community together. Instead of a lot of those young people having to go into London or Bristol to get a job, they can actually stay and work in a community, factory or warehouse. It's very successful. That town is thriving because that factory is there, that warehouse is there. And my community benefits from it. And I feel good about that. It's sort of like community sustainability. So there are lots of ways to think about sustainability. There's environmental, which is boxes and waterless products and refillables. And then there's the commercial part of it, which is the formulation and the multifunction by taking out products. And then there is this piece that speaks to the extended family, about people being able to live and work in the communities they want to live and work in.
Mhm, mhm. And I'm curious, it's important to you and clearly important to the folks in that community, but does your customer care? Do they even know about the type of production that's behind a brand like this?
Well, I always try and make the point when there's an opportunity to. So people say you're actually supporting local communities living and working in the places they want to live and work in, where they've gone to school, where they've grown up, where their friends are, where their family members are. And when we are looking for new partners in different parts of the world, I mean, it is not a coincidence. Even our warehouse and our partners in the United States are family-run businesses. Now,
Mhm.
I'm judging anybody else and taking on a much more, scalable commercial organization to work with. This is just how we like to support business and industry because we're a family-run business. We like to support other family-run businesses, and it speaks to me as an owner. And I think when I speak to this at conferences and events, other people relate to it.
No, that's interesting to hear. Now, so I don't love to generalize, but I am going to say that beauty retail typically prefers large product assortments and frequent launches. I'm wondering how a brand like you're describing fits into the retail space.
Well, it's a challenge. I've been told many times that I need more SKUs, and I go, we will never be that brand. Never.
Mhm.
And I hate to say, I mean, I like to use an analogy, but, I said, everybody understands multifunction when you talk about a cell phone. They understand this. There was a time, unfortunately, I remember it, when a telephone just made phone calls.
Yes.
Now it's your wallet. Now it's a payment device. It's a calendar. It's GPS. I mean, who walks around with maps anymore? They're just obsolete. So we all understand the need for that when it comes to a phone. But we haven't really embraced it in the skincare business. And the reason we haven't is just so much money in it. And so clients, they don't want to, especially if you're a large corporation, you can't really take those SKUs out of your lineup. It's really difficult to do when you've got shareholders. So I think all the innovation in smart skincare and clever formulations is coming from the smaller companies who can afford to do that. And what will eventually, in my view, happen is these bigger corporations will simply buy them.
I believe that your brand has a sizable presence in what we might think of as in-flight sales. I'm curious to learn more about this for myself, but also, of course, for our listeners. Why did you choose that sales channel for your brand?
Well, the entire concept behind the skincare range was really born out of my own need to solve a problem I had. And at the time, I was living and working in Singapore and in Hong Kong, and I was working for a very large financial services organization, and I had a global job. My family was in London. I was based in Hong Kong. My home office was New York, and my husband was in the Carolinas. And I was one of those people who were always on planes. So I had every accident that you could possibly imagine. I had products taken at TSA. I had them leak in my luggage. I had them stolen from hotel rooms. I left them at home by mistake, all of that. And so I just thought that what I was experiencing was an issue that just I had. And I've come to learn it's an issue that all busy people have. And so when we created the products, a very large part of why we created them the way we did was to make them easy for busy people to travel with as well. So you don't have to have 4 products in your case. You can have 2. And so we are uniquely suited to the consumer who travels constantly. And so when we launched the products, there was a really interesting article written by a lady called India Knight in the United Kingdom. She's a beauty editor. And she said we were the best travel product that she had discovered. And as a result of that, the airlines contacted us.
Yes.
I'd love to say it was a strategic choice, but as much as anything, it really was something of an accident. But it has been a channel that has embraced us fully. We do really, really well with those channel partners, and we will always take care of our travel retail partners. And we now have 9 different international airlines around the world, so they're a big part of our retail
Yeah,
space.
no, that's fantastic. And can you help me think about what's different? They're travel retail buyers and distribution services, or how does this all work? I'm asking for myself, but also maybe for other brand leaders who haven't considered this opportunity.
So there are a number of, I'm going to call them agents, who represent the major airlines, and there's probably 3 major ones, maybe 4 of them now, that cover the vast majority of the major international airlines.
Sure.
And so once you get traction, I actually went to the airlines directly initially.
Yes.
Because we were unknown, and those agents really want to deal with a known quantity and a known brand, not too dissimilar from a standard distributor who, it's about taking on a new young brand. They'd rather take on a more established brand with budget and visibility. So initially, I started approaching them myself, and we got into a number of airlines ourselves. But then once you get into one, you get attention. They all look at the same. These guys all know each other.
Yes.
The agents all know each other.
Yes.
It's not difficult if you have an airline like EasyJet or you have an airline like Norwegian Airlines, and all the buyers in Europe are going to know you very quickly. If you have any airline, as we do, like Emirates, everyone in the Middle East is going to know you fairly quickly. And because our products are designed to remove steps from the process, we are a really great fit for the traveling consumer. And also, especially in the Middle East where we're doing so much business and growing so quickly, we are a luxury product. I mean, our products are made out of food ingredients. For anybody looking to get into it, if you're a very new brand, I won't tell you this is easy. It's going to be a challenge. But if you have a unique story that will speak to a traveling consumer, then I would reach out to these people and, introduce your products. And the travel conferences, is a great way to do that.
Sure. No, that makes good sense. Our industry, the cosmetics and personal care industry, is often described as being a fast-paced industry, and I think that's fair, but certainly change does take time. And this idea of slow beauty, I feel kind of silly saying it out loud. Slow beauty is moving slowly. What can we learn from your experience and the progress you've made over the years?
Well, I honestly thought, and I think this is part of my naivety coming in from a business world to the business. I thought once I had a solution that was wonderful, that was really consumer friendly, that was easy, I thought everyone would embrace it. But it's been a tougher journey than I anticipated. But I've learned something from the whole process, and I now say that pioneers take all the arrows, right? When I go to see a retailer, they will often ask me, can I launch more products? And I'll go, oh, well, I could, but no. And, how many products do I have in the pipeline? And I go, well, the whole message about our brand is we'll never be 30, 40 SKUs. That's never going to be who we are. We
Yes.
don't do that person. There's somebody else doing that, probably much better than we would anyway. And it just doesn't sit well with our philosophy. Um, but it has been something of a journey. I mean, we have won, I think, over 35 awards in the last 2.5 years, but that doesn't necessarily translate into acceptance into the retail space. So I think the travel space is a wonderful place for us to really build our footprint and to get visibility, because it's less crowded, and you don't have the same pressure to have lots of different SKUs that you do in a retail space.
Sure.
But in fairness, retail is changing,
Mhm.
because I think consumers are requesting it. And when I talk to a retailer and they say, "Well, Pauline, we want you to have 15 SKUs on a shelf," and I said, "Well, you're not considering velocity. You're just not considering that at all. If I give you 10 and they walk off the shelf, it's better than 15 that sit there."
Yeah, no, that's interesting to hear. And I've talked about this idea of slow beauty several times now during our conversation, and something else that has come up with folks I've interviewed here on Cosmo Factory is this idea called underconsumption, right? And some people have called it that directly. Other people are sort of just noticing the way that consumers maybe are buying less and are finding ways to keep the consumer engaged or interested in more creative ways. But I guess if if this is a movement within our industry, um, whether it's consumer driven or led by brands like yourself, um, I guess how can the industry itself step up and be more supportive?
Most of the challenges we have are on the distribution piece of it, because
Okay.
we now have partners that we know love working with us, on cartons, on formulation, on new, refillables and those sorts of things. And I think in terms of componentry, all of that, is sort of coming about, and components and recycling, all these things are now much more front of mind than they were 5 years ago, for
Yes.
example. It's really the distribution and the retail, and it's really, unfortunately, it's driven by the difficulty for a younger brand trying to do this slow beauty is it's driven largely by how many SKUs the store can, the staff earn commission based on how many products they sell. And so they'd rather sell another range that they can sell more products in.
Mhm.
So it's really the structure of how the retail businesses work that inhibits the successful launches in a lot of retail outlets.
Mhm.
Now, there are some exceptions to that, because there are organizations that are much more focused on clean beauty. They're much more focused on slow beauty.
I'm a little bit concerned when you describe the retail space that we're setting up a divide, right, between sort of the conventional retail model and this one that supports slow beauty in a different way. And it's sort of an either or situation. Do you see a transition happening in beauty?
Well, I do. It's just not going fast enough. So you always want these things to go faster, right? But
Yeah.
I honestly think retail is in trouble. I think, I go into the department stores, I'm always looking at new products, and I go into um, specialty stores, specialty stores and skincare stores. I think those are going to be okay. But the larger stores, I think they're in trouble. There's nobody in there.
Mm.
Um, which is why when I look at John Lewis in the UK, and we were going to launch with John Lewis a couple of years ago, now 11 of the stores we were going to launch at are going to be, they're going to be homes.
Mhm.
They're turning
Mhm.
them into real estate to make homes out of them, so that it's changing. Um, I do think, I mean, I'd loved it to have changed a little faster, but I do think that the model that we have at the moment doesn't really make it easy for slow beauty, clean beauty to really make an imprint, and get as much space and time as they really ought to. But things are
Mhm.
changing, and consumers are demanding it, and they're becoming much more aware. And when I talk to people about velocity and I say, look, if I tell you the resale rate on Tribalm is 52.4%, once somebody buys this product, they come back and they buy it over and over and over and over again.
Mhm.
And I mean, even the emails we get, we get a lot of emails from people with damaged skin. I mean, when we created these formulations, we were liaising with renal specialists, we were liaising with chemotherapy and oncology specialists. You know, what can damaged skin tolerate? What is nutrient dense? It feeds people who have damaged skin. What can psoriasis tolerate? I mean, normally they don't like water because that's very drying. So lots and lots of education around the creation of these formulations. And when I come to speak to those, even when I speak to retailers, they actually love it. They just, it's just the structure is not really set up to support it very well.
It's very helpful to understand all that. I appreciate your speaking with us, helping us think about luxury, multifunctional skincare in a whole new way, Pauline. I appreciate your being a guest today on CosmoFactory.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening. If you find the CosmoFactory podcast useful, please take a moment to leave us a 5-star review and share your thoughts so even more cosmetic industry professionals can discover the CosmoFactory. I'm Deanna Utrusky. Please join me again next Tuesday for a new episode of the CosmoFactory podcast.